Welcome back to Bespoke Addict. I've got another simply stunning, amazing pair that I'm going to be selling on eBay UK at no reserve. And these are an unworn pair of 1960s Henry Maxwell Bespoke. They've never been worn. They're just totally unreal. Maxwell stamped into the heel. They're round about UK 10.5. I wear UK 9.5. They're a bit big for me, about a size too big. They're a bit wide and they're a bit tall on the toes on me. They're quite a generous fit. They would probably suitable for somebody of a much heavier build than myself. When you get heavier, your feet get sort of broader and taller too. You don't just put it on your waist. The foot length measurement stays largely the same. So if somebody's been a 10.5 foot measurement since the late teens, but maybe, through age put on a bit of weight, the feet don't generally get any longer, but they do get broader. They're just unreal. What do you say about such a thing? They're about 60 years old. Made at Henry Maxwell on Dover Street. Can we read the numbers in there? Oh, autofocus, it's struggling. It doesn't know what to look at. Camera's all, yeah. Let me zoom in manually. The camera's struggling. There we go. Yeah, it's the bespoke code. If anybody has got access to the codes, they'll be able to know exactly when this was made and for whom. Just amazing. The fascinating thing for me is this unbelievably sort of sculpted waist. It's so sculpted. Just beautiful things. And I've got another pair, very, very similar. The same colour, same shape, just a little bit smaller, and they've been worn. They're in beautiful condition, but they're not unworn, and I'll be keeping that pair and selling these. If I didn't have the second pair, I wouldn't be able to bear to part with these. I'd put a very, very thick insole in them. I'd wear them anyway, and I'd enjoy wearing them, but I'd be wearing a pair of shoes that are ultimately too big. But because I do have a good replacement, I can bear to part with these. So I've got classical West End beveled waist. Beautiful. They sort of slightly curved last, almost in the Terry Moore, Foster and Son, George Cleverley sort of vein, with this curvature of that last. If I were looking at that sole alone, I would say it's a Terry Moore, Foster and Son, or quite an early George Cleverley, but it's not. It's Henry Maxwell. Just amazing, and the colour's glorious. They haven't really developed any aged patina because they've never seen daylight. This is I'd say it's not the original. It's exactly as they came to me, looking like this. But what I did, I just gave them a very, very light white with alcohol, and I've treated them with exactly the same colour. I always match it to the tongs behind the laces. The same shoe cream. I've used Sapphire Creme in that colour, and I've just given them a very, very light application of polish. I didn't want them to look polished or buffed or like a glassage. That's the last thing I wanted. These are ultimately brand new shoes. They've never been worn, even though they are about 60 years old. I want them to have that box fresh, sort of what the maker would have put in the box. I didn't want them to look buffed and polished. Whoever buys these and enjoys them can enjoy building the polish and letting the patina develop. They've even got the original laces. They're the originals, and they've not been exposed to daylight. Otherwise, they'd have crumbled away by now. But everything about them is total perfection. The skins are really buttery soft. They smell new. They look new. Everything about them suggests they're brand new, but of course they're not. One telltale of a pair that's never really been polished or treated. If you look into the edges of the holes, let's bring it up, you can see they're very pale in there. That's where the skin was dyed and then it was punched, and it leaves an exposed edge. Obviously with polishing, that goes away to some degree, and it gets completely hidden eventually. And that's just just an indication that they've never been treated before. I treated them, but I tried to retain that. Once again, along the edges here, it's kind of pale underneath there. If you nourish them with the correct coloured cream, that just goes dark eventually. But as I say, I've nourished them, but I've tried not to push it down into the holes and the raw edges, just to try and retain that brand new look. I'm sure we can look inside, but there's nothing to see in there. They've never been worn. There's no footprints. There's nothing. And they're going to find a home that enjoys them enormously. Let's have a look. We can just about see it in the. Let me just explain, then I'll move the camera around. When shoes are hand lasted and hand welted and hand stitched, the maker puts like a thick tape to protect the upper skin. I mean, it presses against the skin as the maker's poking the holes underneath here. Of course, there's a concealed channel which is stuck back down, and it just leaves a little tiny mark on the skin. If I move it, it's ever so discreet. Probably can't really see it in camera, but there's these little tiny vertical marks all the way around, and all bespoke shoes have that. It's almost impossible for the maker to do it by hand and not rub the awl onto the skin. Now, with polishing and buffing, it tends to sort of buff that out, and it's still visible on these. And I like that, it's so discreet. You have to really know what you're looking for to be able to see it, but it's there. Ready-to-wear shoes don't have that because they're machine-made, and the machine can hold the shoe and stitch it at the same time without touching the edge. But when doing it by hand, it's close to impossible. There it is, look. You can just see these little tiny, tiny, tiny marks. And that's on pretty much all bespoke shoes. And it's just a sign of the handmade nature of these things. And with a bit of time, with a bit of polishing and buffing, that would sort of disappear. It would be completely gone. But anyway, I don't really have much more to say other than they are truly remarkable, utterly fantastic, perfection itself. They look, feel and smell new, and they will behave as new. There's no damage to these skins, but they're at least 60 years old, and they're for sale on eBay UK at no reserve.